I am sure that this feels timely for many of you all. And you will find that I share in with you if you have been laid off and the many, many emotions that comes with. But you will see that there are many of us on this call that share the same experience. And so we are in community today. And I'm excited to be able to get started and to talk about some of the strategies. With that said, we are going to actually just engage in a quick breathing exercise. I find that it is helpful for us to stay grounded when we're thinking about transitions, when we're thinking about what is to come. We can kind of be all over the place. And so one of the things that we're going to do is just do a quick breathing exercise to be grounded. We're actually going to engage with our body a little bit in our space and time today. So if it's comfortable for you, you can put your feet on the floor or just find somewhere that feels like you feel supported. And I want you to close your eyes or have heavy eyelids, and we're going to just take 3 collective breaths. So go ahead and close your eyes and take a deep breath in. Hold and breathe out. Take another deep breath in. And breathe out. And then the last one, I want you to collective exhale. Take a deep breath in. And collective exhale. And just want you to kind of check in. How is your body feeling in this moment? When we talk about layoffs and all the emotions around that, we can have a lot of different feelings for it. And so it is important for us just to be able to engage with how we are feeling, what our body is doing. With that said, I am going to introduce myself. So I have the awesome privilege of, like many of you all, being a Syracuse alum. And I graduated in 2012. I was a biochemistry major and a sociology minor. But many connections with Syracuse. But in my work, I am a executive coach and someone that focuses on DEI strategy and being a speaker. Ultimately, the work that I do is that I care about equity and authenticity because I really deeply care about people. The root of that is I'm the youngest of 5. I actually am the sister of 2 other Syracuse graduates. My brother was an aerospace engineer major, graduated in 2010, and my sister was in Maxwell grad, both 07 and then master's in 08. So a deep connection with the Orange women and men community. And I'm super proud to be able to connect with you all about a topic that feels isolating when you're going through it. But as you can see on the amount of people on the call, we know that we're in community with each other. I am a current SU career coach, and you can find me on the Alumni website that just shared earlier. And I have been a former DEI or EDI strategist for the Shaw Center, one of the organizations within Syracuse's community. So that's a little bit about me. And you're probably asking, why am I facilitating this call today? Well, that's a really good question because I actually have been laid off twice. And I experienced my layoff actually twice in basically a 4-year period in my life. And so I have an intimate experience with what you're going through on a personal level. And then I'm also a career coach, where that means that I also help people navigate their layoffs and what is their best next move. And so for our space and time today, I'm really sharing with you all what I have found in my work to be some of the most helpful strategies that people land on their next move with confidence and clarity. So a little bit about me. In 2017, I was laid off from a nonprofit, and I applied just to one role that I was recommended and recruited for. I knew I was leaving Chicago, so I wanted to be in a remote role. And I started that new role in July 2017. So it was for my first layoff, it was actually a very quick transition to my next role. I I definitely didn't go through any of these strategies that I'm going to walk through because I was like, okay, this is fine. Someone recruited me, kind of like what you all might be experiencing. Someone recommended this, and I guess I should do it because I'm nervous. I've never been laid off. Like, what is this experience? I did get severance, so I had a little buffer room there. And then I got laid off in May 2020 from the nonprofit during COVID lockdown. And so I was laid off twice in 4 years. And I actually really was much more intentional with the second layoff because, as y'all know, during that time in May 2020, during the height of COVID lockdown, there was a lot of layoffs and there was a lot of moments that I had to consider, like, what is important for me and what is next, and not just go with whatever was afloat. So this time, I actually didn't start a new job. I launched my business. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the choices that you should make or you should consider. So that's a little bit of my layoff journey. And so I want to get to know a little bit about you all. So in the chat, I would love for you to share your name, industry, and the location you're calling from or you're based out of, and your own layoff journey. So you'll see for me, it would be Rachel. If I were to do this in 2020, it'd be Rachel Vicente, education, Miami. My layoff journey was that this was my second layoff, and I've been looking for 3 to 4 months. So we'll go ahead and give you all a couple of minutes to share in the chat your introductions in the layoff journey. Thanks so much for sharing your layoff journey. As y'all can see, we are in all different places around our layoff journey. Yes, I can see people sharing that this is their first or their second, that they've been looking or they paused, that they went to travel or they were on maternity leave. It is so important to think about your own layoff journey and what you are wanting. So, yes, all of the things. So thank you for sharing and also being in community again with other people who have been laid off as well. Just want to share a little bit of framing that I think is really important in starting this conversation, which is job loss is loss. One of the things that I think is important is that when you get laid off, people often don't spend time just thinking about or mourning the stages of a job loss. And so you can take a moment and just identify in this moment in time, where are you in your stages of grief or job loss grief? Are you in acceptance? Are you so new? You might be in still denial or anger. Wherever you are, I just want to name and affirm that that is okay. Processing job loss can be challenging, or it can actually be really liberating, right? Everyone has different emotions in here. And there is a lot of ways that people are processing, their job loss. But one of the most important things that I want to talk about is that how we are processing our job loss, even if it happened 4 months ago, a year ago, or just maybe a week ago, influences the types of actions we take. And so, for example, some of people who might be in anger or denial might start going into panic and scarcity. So, oh my gosh, I can't believe I lost my job, and I just want to apply for anything and take whatever thing that I have. And what often happens is that you might land in a role where you're not really happy. In 6 months, you're actually starting to look for a job all over again because you found or figured out that, you know what, this actually wasn't the role for me, and I thought that I just wanted to do it. Other emotional responses that you might feel when you're angry, you might have revenge, your sadness, you're maybe sad, so you feel helplessness. Oh, I don't know what to do, my next move. You might feel really disappointed. Maybe you weren't expecting this layoff, and you might feel like as you're going through this job process, maybe I don't or can't apply for these certain jobs, or maybe I can't take a year off, or maybe I can't start a new business. All of those things. Shock leading to fear, contentment. You're just happy. You're like, all right, I'm going to hang out. I'm just going to take some time off. That was me, by the way, when I got laid off my second time. Or you might be like, I'm super relieved and I might have the space to innovate. I just want to be able to name for you all that all of these emotions are okay. And they are super helpful for you in thinking about how to navigate. One of the things that I think is underrated as we're talking about what's my next move is people kind of disconnect their emotions from their actions. And actually, it is super important that it's at the forefront because, like I said again, you might be influenced to make a decision that you don't feel like is best later down the road because you actually weren't really grounded. So our conversation today is how can we be more grounded so that you feel like your next move, you have clarity and confidence with. So again, we're going to spend some time thinking about sharing key strategies to identify your next move with authenticity. We'll spend time doing some values, a visualization, and then some making sense in meeting and strategies. Our time is for us to get a little bit clearer on what's important to you in your next steps of the journey, to be high level. We're not going to have a place for us to make edits on your resume or sharing a list of jobs. Just that's not going to be the purpose. And we only have 60 minutes. And really, this space is a place for people who have already processed their job elimination and are ready to think about what's next. So really, you're in a space to thinking about what is my next action to take. Cool. Some of you all have been looking for jobs for some time, and I just want to acknowledge that the job market is much more challenging in the last couple of months with the unexpected layoffs that have been happening across the government sector, as well as more complicating it. So I just want to name and acknowledge that some of the actions or some of the things that I'm recommending might not be totally new, but want to just resurface it for us to be operating with a little bit more clarity. So your next move. When I think about your layoff, there are several potential moves that you could make. You could pursue a full-time job. You could pursue a part-time job. You could pursue entrepreneurship. You could take a break, and that includes like family planning or maternity leave, paternity leave. It could just be traveling. That could look like gig work, and it could look like going back to school. I want you to share in the chat which is your current thinking about the move you want to take right now. So share in the chat, which one of the moves are you looking for right now? Okay, cool. So most people are in full-time, looking for full-time, which makes a lot of sense at this place. Yes, I love that, Paula. Taking a travel and health break, super, super important. All right, so we're going to take a moment to think about, and yes, schools include certifications, upskilling opportunities, like you said, Naomi, as well. So we're going to take a moment to actually think about what is most important for us and what is the type of work that I want. So we're going to engage in a values audit where you are going to, in the chat, choose and uncover what values are most important to you in your life. So you're going to go ahead and click on the link in the chat, and it's going to pull up a non-exhaustive list of values. And what we're going to do is you're going to think about in your life, when you are your best self, when you are most fulfilled, what are the things that guide you? And I want you to start off with choosing 10. And I'm going to give you, and if there's a word on the list that's not there, you can add it. But you're going to have 90 seconds. And again, I'll drop the link in the chat. You're going to have 90 seconds to choose 10 values that most resonates with you when you're fulfilled and you're your best self. All right. Just give me a virtual thumbs up that you've chosen your 10 or a finger. Okay. Now you're going to take your 10 and change and choose 5. You're going to cut your list down from 10 to 5. And you don't have to share them yet. Again, thinking about when you're most fulfilled, making big life decisions, what guides you in your moment? I was asked if I could share the list. All right. Our last step is that you're going to choose 3. And I promise that's the way we dwindled it down enough. So you're going to choose your top 3. I'm cracking up. Wow, a lot of making a difference. Syracuse did a really good job. What I forget our motto now. Sue us culture, something like that. Don't John, Jessica, don't quote me on my poor translation of what our motto is. Okay, perfect. So one of the reasons why we'll come back together, and you all are already sharing. Thank you. No, one of the most important reasons why I start, thank you, friends, I start with a values activity is that when you're looking for your next best move, it should be grounded in what's important to you and what's in your value systems. So when you're thinking about, I'm going to take Nicole, for example, flexibility is really important to her. And she'll know what that means. Well, if she is looking for in her role in her next job or next opportunity, maybe entrepreneurship is really important because it provides that level of flexibility. Again, oftentimes people skip this step and jump right into a search and leave and find a next opportunity that feels really misaligned. But because of scarcity and panic, you just jump into it. And that is one of the things that I'm cautioning against, to say, actually being really intentional about what's important to you. So we have our core values and what's starting from that place, which is helpful. If you want to do a quick little assessment, you can, this is an extension activity, but you can analyze your last role to see to what extent your values was being lived out. And was that connected to your happiness? But that's another activity that I have for people to do. So now we're going to do a little bit of another activity, and we're going to do a visualization. So for those that are like, this is super out of my comfort zone, that is totally okay. But I want you to center around a sense of possibility in our next activity. Because what I'm going to do is invite you to visualize a life where you are fully fulfilled. And you're going to think about it. So I'm going to lead you through this visualization activity, and then we're going to talk about it afterwards. So I'm going to play some calm music. And I'm actually going to ask you again to close your eyes or have a heavy eyelids. And I want you to take a couple of deep breaths just to get into the mindset of our space and time today. I want you to think about yourself doing the best work that you've done. Who are you at your best self? You're super fulfilled. What are you doing? Who are you around? Where are you living? How are you feeling? Again, thinking about yourself in your best professional, personal self. Who are you as a professional? Who are you thriving? Who are the people around you?
Yeah.
And what's the work that you're doing? Think that you're living in full alignment with your values that you just listed. Imagine yourself already living. And when you get a second, just appreciate that person. And you can open your eyes and take a moment to just do some journaling and capture your reflections. I want you to write down what you saw. What were you doing? Who did you see, or what did you see when you described or saw your best self or your most fulfilled professional self? Just take a moment to capture that down. That's all right, Naomi. It takes a couple of tries to get to it, so it's okay. If you're like, it was so hard, totally all right. I would love for one or two people to share what they visualized, and you can boldly unmute. What did you visualize when we walked through that activity? Mm,
I can go. I visualized being out in my community and making connections. So in my old world, that was in a marketing way, connecting clients and designers and vendors. But I think in the future, that'll mean more boots on the ground community connections.
and tell me what your values are.
Community, authenticity, and communication.
It sounds very aligned to what your values are. Thank you for sharing. Another person to share? What was your visualization? Boldly unmute.
I'll go for it.
Awesome.
I was not that exciting. My values were adventure, creativity, and meaningful work. And I saw myself just like in a conference room coming up with fun ideas. It's like exciting campaigns or something like that. And then I saw myself solving communication problems between people about creative ideas.
Okay. Love it. No, this is great. So every time I do this visualization, people fall into two categories, and I'm curious as to which one you fall on. Your best self is usually
Okay. Sorry. I'm gonna call you.
usually falls under the type of work. So you're focused on the actual responsibilities in your role. So is the work that I'm doing meaningful? Is it impactful? For example, you're like, I want to be a writer, but I love writing, but that could mean being a journalist, being in a script, writing scripts. It could be something like that. But as long as I'm doing writing, that is important to me. So really, it could be at any type of place as long as the role I'm doing is important to me. And then there are this other group where it's actually the culture, meaning the people I'm around and the space that I'm in is more important to me. I want to feel valued or heard. I want to feel like I'm working with the same people. Meaning I could do any type of work as long as I'm in this type of culture. What's important is that people traditionally fall into one of the two categories. And the visualization allows for you to really think about where do you fall. Because when you're job searching, you really want to think about that, or your next move, you really want to think about that through my lens. Is this going to allow for me to live into my best self? So, Owen, you really were talking a lot about, when you shared your example, you were really talking about the type of work you were doing, right? I'm connecting, et cetera, et cetera. So the type of culture might not be as relevant. There are some people who, when they do this activity, all they're focusing on their visualization, all they're focusing on is who they're around and the type of coworkers they might have. So I just want to make that distinction of why we did the visualization to kind of help you unpack subconsciously what's important to you. No judgment there, and that's totally okay, but a little bit kind of a sneak preview. So we kind of went through this, but you can think about, is this aligned to your values? What you visualize, Owen and our first and Julia, you did actually, your values are really connected to your visualization, and the purpose is that you want that to be true. What you want to visualize for yourself in your next career should be aligned to your values. When you are values aligned, you are fulfilled in your work. So that's why it's super important to do some of these exercises. For those that have been job searching for a while, you might ask yourself, am I job searching with this type of intentionality? Yes or no? And how is that leading me astray or not? So I'm going to pause for just any reflections or comments that people have before we move on to some nitty gritty. And you can boldly unmute or share in the chat. Okay, no worries. So first, let's get more concrete. So now that we are big picture, we're going to dial a little bit deeper. So first things first, I want you to reclaim your time. I'm going to share with you some concrete steps from you just applying aimlessly in your roles to being really strategic. When you are more targeted in your process, especially as so many of you all want full-time jobs, this part is super important. Many people apply aimlessly because they're scared. And again, landing on different jobs that they are not happy with. And I coach people, so many people who in 6 months after losing a job are looking for another job again. So that is not what we want the case to be. We want you to land on something authentically. So how do we do some of that? Well, we're going to go through a little bit of exercises. Now, first, you are going to think about your values and your vision. What everyone should be doing in their job search is having this 3 lists. And if you can start generating it as I'm talking. You should have a non-negotiable list. You should have a nice to have list. And you should have a what am I willing to compromise list. So just curious if you thumbs up in the chat or visually if you have something like this already you're using. Okay, so some people know. Okay, this is super important. In the right column, you're going to think about things to consider. So in your list, you should have 3 things. What are your non-negotiables? For example, is salary and a particular salary a non-negotiable? You must make X amount. Are certain benefits, healthcare, are they nice to have? Maybe willing to compromise because you have a partner that you can be on their health insurance. Family planning, PTO, maybe, again, you're someone who loves adventure. I'm thinking about you, Owen. I'm just making this up, right? Owen loves adventure. So for him, having a big PTO plan is important because he wants to travel. You want to think about, based on your vision and values, what are your non-negotiables, nice to haves, and you're willing to compromise. Work travel. If you have a family or you're caretaking and your job is potential job is asking you at 95%, is that, for example, that would be a non-negotiable. I don't want to travel more than 10% of the month. Professional development fund, maybe student loan tuition reimbursement. This is non-exhaustive. Why I'm going through this list is because when it comes time for people to make a decision on accepting a job or not, guess what they do? They forget about this list even exists. So they say, I'm like, I thought non-negotiable was $100,000 in salary. It's a $70,000 salary. And then what happens is that people start to move things around because they're scared. And so my recommendation is to really think about this with intentionality, to say, I want to land on something with purpose. What are my non-negotiables? What are my nice to haves? What are things that I'm willing to compromise? And this is really personal. It's up to you. Mine was different than yours. So you can do all of this, but I want to take a step back and name also something that's really important. Every single person that has been or laid off should have a special date. Meaning, you know in your mind when is the very last day that you can comfortably not be receiving any income. Why is this important? It's important because you might have a severance package that gave you space and time to actually delay your search for a couple of months. Or maybe your special date has already passed and now you're thinking about taking other opportunities. Yes, I had Cobra, exactly, right. I know that is very, very expensive. Unfortunately, healthcare is tied to your job in the United States of America. But this is so important. It's also really uncomfortable in conversations that people are like flying off the seats of their wing because they're like, I need to just get a job now, without really saying, okay, by May 10th, I must have a job So that means that I need to start looking and actively finding a job by X date. If you don't have your special date, and maybe this is if you are part of a family or you're caretaking, this should be something that you have a conversation with the people that are also responsible with your finances. When I was laid off, was not a caretaker. I was not married. So my special date was different than other people who had gotten laid off from me. So this is, again, a very unique and important context. But super, super helpful because it influences your search and your interviewing process. I'll pause for any questions before moving forward. So when you are going through your search process, you should take your non-negotiables and specifically think about how you're going to find them or look for them during your each step. So transparently, if your salary is a non-negotiable, do not wait until the final interview to find out the salary and find out that it's going to be a pay cut. That's an example of you not reclaiming your time. I'm in Florida. Florida does not have, like California and other states, does not have the salary transparency law, which should be a national law. But I do think that that's important as an example of how am I specifically looking for and creating non-negotiables at every stage of my process. Also, one of the most underrated parts of your job process is your intuition. If you are in a job process and your stomach is uncomfortable, not like nervous, but you're like getting interview questions or you're like, ooh, this feels off, listen to your intuition. Often some of those like minor experiences that we're having in job interviews cascade into larger red flags during an actual employment opportunity. Simply put, we often just miss some of the red flags during interviews because we just want a job. So that looks like just being really intentional. So that is some of the examples here. And you want to just assess the company's culture. What are things that help you assess company's culture? Compensation packages, their mission and values, their DEI statements, the current employee's experience reaching out to somebody or current or past employees, the job process itself. I always say every single part of a job process is an indicator of the company culture. So many times when people are unhappy at their job and we look back at their job interview experience, they usually say like, oh, this one thing happened. For example, I was in a 6-hour long day interview day and I didn't have a lunch. Now they're 6 months later, they're in their job. And guess what happens? They never are able to take lunch. They have no PTO time, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a direct correlation, right? So don't overthink or sell yourself short. Yes. So I'm going to pause here and just allow for you all to take a moment to think about which do you need more time with. So we won't jump into breakout groups, but take a moment to think about, do I need to figure out my special date? So post this meeting, workshop, do I need to look at more of my vision and values? Do I need to explore that more? Do I need to look at more of my non-negotiables? Or do I actually need to look at my job search? Do I need to be more intentional there? So in the chat, Put if you need more time at 1, 2, 3, or 4. So 1 for you need more time figuring out your special date. 2, you need more time thinking about your vision and values. 3, non-negotiables. And 4, your job search. A lot of you all are like, I need to reclaim my time. I need to think more strategically about what is going to happen during my job search. So I need to feel more confident in my next step. I want to take a moment and also name for those that are considering entrepreneurship. The same process is also true. What are the things that I want to focus on when I'm looking for my new clients? What are the non-negotiables? How must I feel when I'm sourcing people? So I just wanted to make the parallel connection that it's very, very similar. The process is very similar. Just some additional considerations that I want you all to think about as you are exploring more clarity. 1, leverage your network. If you've been looking for a long time, one of the very first things I ask people is, do people publicly know that you were laid off, and do they know you're looking? I'm not saying your family and friends. I'm saying, have you posted on LinkedIn that you've been laid off and you've been looking? That's just a question to ask yourself. I'm sharing an example of a former coworker and her LinkedIn post that I find to be really, really helpful. People want to help others who have been laid off. Again, I want to say people want to help people who've been laid off, but they can't help you if they don't know you've been laid off. So one of the very next steps, if you're leaving this conversation and you've done your vision and values, you know what you want to do, I want you to make a post sharing. And Kelly, what I love about Kelly's post is that she says things as we start the new year, I'm open to work either through full-time or contract opportunities that allow me to lead or support social organizations experiencing moments of change. I am at my best when I am doing X, Y, Z. You want to let your network know by thinking about your vision and values that we did in the beginning, what you want to do. When you're laid off, it's an opportunity to do the work that you like. So let your network know that you want to do work that you like. That's one of the other last nuggets that I would say around I always say, let your network work for you. People want to help you. I would love to help you if you tag me and you let me know. So we're going to move to closing and just want to share with you all deep gratitude for your space and time today. Yes, exactly, Kelly. Have people share with other people that you've been laid off. Thank you so much for your space and time. You can stay connected with me. There are ways. I am obviously an executive coach and help people through this process. And you can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can connect with me by email. Please share on LinkedIn, tag me. A little LinkedIn fact, the algorithm works well when you tag other people. It just increases your reach. So that's a place for you. I am on the SU Alumni Coaches where you can snag some time with me. I offer trainings and workshops. Oftentimes they're free. Some of them are paid or low cost. But please use the community, use this space. I'm going to pass it over to the SU alum team who's going to just close us out in a second. But before we hop off, I would love for you all to share in the chat what is one strategy that you're going to take to navigate your, as you navigate into your next career move? So share in the chat, what's one strategy that you're going to take? Naomi, you can do it. Tag me and I can help you out. Reach out to people. Great. Not compromising on your non-negotiables. Yes. We want you in a place you like. Love that. Yes. Hold yourself higher to good standards. You all are worthy. I like to tell people you are the prize. Companies are lucky to have you and your talent. Yes, Bradley, find a job that I love, not one that I can tolerate. One of the most important things that I want to share before I pass it off to John is we know stress can kill us and people, and mental health really matters, and jobs are important financially, of course. And, in the United States, we need healthcare for our job with our jobs, but your mental well-being is so much more important. You cannot work if you're not alive. And so that is the root of much of this conversation, is that landing on something that is meaningful for you, that will lead to fulfillment. Like I said, I'm here to support you.